Hello and welcome to this edition of Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting. He is Eric Buhrendorf, and this is episode 18, believe it or not. So what's happening, Eric?
It's hard to believe we made it to episode 18.
Proving all the haters wrong. They said we wouldn't get past 17, yet here we are.
Well, I remember when 10 was a milestone, right? Because
Right.
I originally solicited you, I don't know, sometime late last year. And I had started this with another partner who we only lasted 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. And then, so being a little jaded, I said, well, with you, let's see if we can get past 10 episodes, and then we'll maybe declare, victory. We have officially a show on our hands. And I'm just looking at our YouTube channel videos page, and we've got 17 videos with dynamic thumbnails. Megan does our thumbnails. Thank you, Megan. Funny, hopefully searchable episode titles. Not many viewerships yet, but we're not advertising it really yet, right?
No, we're really not. We started to do a little bit. I know you've done some plugs on TikTok and Instagram. It's almost like dating. Remember when it became a thing to be like Facebook official or whatever, to flag yourself in a relationship,
Yeah. Well, and we used episode 10 as a milestone before we were going to commit to a website. And the only reason why we don't have a website up yet is because my web team is thankfully a little backlogged. So it's like the shoe cobbler's kids walk to school barefoot. So, we're busy with priority items, but I'm committed to getting us a web page. I know that we converted so we're off of Flipboard, where we created a Facebook page. We do have a group linked to our Facebook page. Do we have a vanity URL yet for our page? Yes, we do. Facebook.com/finance and technology insights is our Facebook page. And you're a groups guy. I do like groups, but I feel like I can pin our news articles to the Facebook page. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Where are you on that?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, sometimes it's just if I see a news article, my initial reaction is always share to group, because I've had my own group for about a year. I've had my own group for about a little bit over a year. So my instinct is always share to group. But I think both the page and the group will kind of evolve. I know for my own business, I use the page for kind of a little bit more on the marketing side, or a little bit more advertisement, where I don't advertise anything in the group at all. It's just shareable content and sometimes some polls, and try to get more interactive on the group side. But
so we're definitely learning as we go. That's for sure. And you and I obviously running our own enterprises. So we're doing this as kind of labor of love, I don't think is the term I would use for this. I use a certain term: side project, a hobby. Where do you fit this into your life?
Business related sidebar, or almost like the idea of kind of sandboxing a little bit, right? Sometimes you take another piece of data or another project, and you build it kind of around a hobby, so that you're not in your business mindset all the time. So while it's related, it's not necessarily it'd be like somebody, I don't know, trying to think of a terrible analogy, but somebody that kind of ram am I frozen here?
Yeah, your video is struggling a little bit. Your audio seems pretty solid, but your video is
okay. I'll keep going on the audio side. But I mean, somebody who was running a gardening shop or landscaping, and then they just worked on some projects around the house just to kind of experiment and do some things and enjoy why they got into the business or whatever in the first place. So I think it's kind of a semi-related sidebar, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair description of what we're doing here. So we're Finance and Technology Insights. We do a weekly show recorded on Tuesdays. Hopefully we publish on Tuesday afternoon, maybe Wednesday morning. we do, you cut the audio and upload that to a podcast. And it is nice. It's nice to do this, and it's nice to have an open forum. Well, two reasons why I think this is nice. One, the video marketing and multimedia marketing content is so obviously important for a business's marketing initiative. And doing this with you really helps keeps me more comfortable. It's teaching me to become comfortable in front of the camera, and kind of putting out this kind of content. And I've been trying to put content out from my company, EVERNET Consulting, an IT company. But I never wanted to put out content that didn't offer value. So, anyways, this show, doing this with you, helps me stay kind of in the habit of staying in front of the camera, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. You have some regular set schedule to put out some content at least once a week. So if we do nothing else, we're still putting out an hour of content every week, which is pretty impressive. So, and it's a forum that doesn't take a lot of preparation. You can just kind of bounce from stuff that we're doing over the last 7 days and coming together. It's not like we need a few hours of prep work in the morning or anything like that. We're just talking about things that we're experiencing and what's going on in the news over the last 6 or 7 days.
That's one of the other reasons why I like this a lot, is because it's not scripted, it's not prepared. Well, you and I are just speaking perfectly candidly about our respective businesses and our experiences. And honestly, it's fun because, it was a total shot in the dark that we met. And I mentioned this in earlier episodes, but you and I turn out to be, we end up kind of becoming a pretty helpful sounding board. I don't know about you, but I enjoy, throughout the week, we're just pinging each other. Just like, I feel like we're both in the same groove in terms of where we are in our respective businesses in some respect. We're focusing a lot on marketing tactics and challenges and things. And
so one of the things that's different about our industry is every business that has a workplace retirement account, 401k, 403b, they're doing these annual tax filings, the Form 5500. So one of the pieces of information on there is how much they're paying. So we don't know what services are being provided, but we at least know how much they're paying. So there's been a ton of 401k lawsuits, but obviously mostly at the bigger companies, but that's something that's really been in a focus. So even if you're not a low cost provider or leading with fees, that's usually one of the priority items that you're going to talk about, is what the fees are, how they're billed, and that kind of stuff. So that's one area where I guess our businesses are kind of different. And I mentioned that to you yesterday.
Let me keep chunking this for the viewer and the listener. So you have publicly available data that tells you the name of a person, like a plan manager and or company, and what they're paying for your comparative services or something like that.
Yeah, so you could take ABC company, look up their retirement plan, see if they have one, and then it's going to say, we've got 30 employees, we've got $1 million in assets. Here's what we started the year with. Here's what we finished the year with. Here's a contact name, phone number. And then one of the spaces in there is what they're paying in administration services. A lot of folks don't fill that out correctly, or sometimes if they're paying the fees outside of the plan, they don't show up there. So it's imperfect data, and the fact that it can be pretty stale too. So they have, you're filing based on last year's information, and you have a
but
while
potentially you have a conversation starter just in that data set.
Yeah.
So
but one thing, a lot of small businesses don't realize that data is public. So,
right.
If you were, dialing for dollars and you're like, hey, Joe Smith at ABC company, I see you paid, $1,500 in 401k fees last year. They'd be like, how did you know that? So it almost creates a sort of creepy big brother sort of thing if they don't know that information is out there. So, so we were talking about that, putting that in as far as email marketing or something. Is that something you mentioned as part of your sequence, or maybe you can kind of range it out, which would be an interesting thing to do. So if you know they've got $650,000 in their plan, you could say typically plan size is in the range of 500,000 to 750, or so you could kind of tell them that without giving them the exact
So
dollar. So
yeah, so for more context, so you floated to me yesterday. You're like, "Hey, I've got this data set. It could be potentially creepy. It could be a great conversation starter. What would you do?" Right? I mean, that's
yeah,
kind of how that went down. Um, I, I have an opinion as to what I think you should do, but I'll just say my answer was we choose not to compete by price.
mhm,
We are what we describe our pricing as market or marketable. So we're right in where the market says our products and services are valued. If we were to compete by price, it's just a race to the bottom.
sure,
And we're not going to do that. And it's not going to create a healthy company for us and a healthy service for the client. So we differentiate on our quality, our experience, and our methodology. I gave you some silver tongue version of that answer, anyways. But what do you so my answer, I think my opinion for you in your context, information I think is key or king in my opinion. So I feel like if you led off with something like, hey, per this report as provided by, right? And
right,
I'm a
yeah,
little shaky on on where you sourced that information. But if you
mhm.
just like linked to it, even, you know what I mean, and just
Yeah,
said
that's not a bad idea.
you know what I mean, per this information by the state, um, really helps me zero in on who I can help best. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And then,
right.
if you kind of let off with that, I feel like you in the first sentence you just address like, how does this guy know?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. You want to, like you would be doing, citing any source. If you're citing a Bloomberg article or whatever, you would say per this source and the link and whatever. And yeah, again, I'm not leading with fees. I'm not, the subject of the email is not like lower your fees 10%. Switch to us. That's not what we're doing. But it's such a hot topic in the industry. And again, if you're doing like a newsletter style or even just a regular email paragraph style, maybe that's your third paragraph or something, or your second, you're not leading with that,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So
so that was kind of
that ties us into our weekly, at the beginning of every episode, we always check in with each other. So that
Mhm.
ties into what I've been doing and what you've been doing. Talk more. You want to tell us more about what your last week is in business was like in this context?
Yeah, sure. So last week in business, well, I guess first and foremost, I kind of took Friday as sort of a half day, almost like the day you took when you were sick, just kind of monitoring emails and stuff. It was my son's fourth birthday, so
Ah,
he was home from daycare. My wife took the day off from school. Had grandma's rolling in and all that kind of
I
stuff.
saw some
So
pictures on social. That looks cool.
yeah. Yeah, that was fun. So we did that, but yeah, otherwise it's been working on some email marketing, some working on some of those, putting together those from different sources. So that could be some services that I pay for, or could be some public information from the DOL. So I think, and you'll probably talk about this too when we talk about what you're doing, is like, you're never going to construct the perfect email. There's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be somebody who gets the business and who's out of business, or, an existing client who kind of gets a marketing thing. So, I think you try to phrase it, early on, kind of casting a wide net, where it could be like, what, if a current client gets this, there's value there. If a prospect gets this, there's value there. If it's a center of an influence, maybe accountant or attorney or something like that, there's value there. So I think it's trying to word that and phrase that, but understand that there's going to be a ton of mistakes. You're going to get some bad emails. You're going to get some stuff
Images
bounced,
left
you know.
justified. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we get so
Megan and I
many
went through
different
that.
ways
Thank
to.
you for pointing that out, by the way.
Yeah. I never know if people want that information or not, but
Definitely. Definitely.
I figured that would be something that you'd be interested in. But yeah, so Eric had sent out an email, and it looked great on my phone. I mean, I'm sure it looked great
We
everywhere,
tested
but
on
it's
all platforms except for Outlook desktop because
right.
we're in the web now. My entire team, I think maybe a couple of my team members still use Outlook desktop, but we're kind of like all in on web software. So we run our
Mhm.
entire business on the web. So I'm an Outlook web app the web version of Outlook, and I kind of stopped using Outlook desktop years ago, a couple of years ago. And of course, it's the de facto business email tool. And you pointed out like, hey, your images on your last because you asked for, you and I were chatting about my email campaigns that I sent out, and thank you
Mhm.
for pointing out that the images on the banner image and the middle image were like left justified.
Yeah.
And I,
I mean, you just never know how things are going to look on different platforms, but
yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think that's kind of the idea, and we both mentioned that we kind of fall into that habit sometimes, where we let perfect be the enemy of good, and sometimes it takes a little bit too long there, and it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to send this email out to 2,500 people. I know some will get bounced. I know it's not perfect for everybody, but you know what? I feel like the email adds value, so here it goes. You know?
Well, I've been in business. I say this repeatedly. It's kind of a feather in my cap, but I've been in business for 17 years now, and at least for the first 10 years of being in business, I tread so lightly in business. I didn't make smart business decisions for fear of alienating my relationships with my clients or
Mm,
upsetting them, basically. I didn't have a marketing function in the business for the first at least 10 years of being in business. I just grew through, networking and referrals and things. Um, and I regret that so aggressively. I regret that
mhm,
so much. And because not having an effective marketing, and you know, I'm coming to find marketing equals just voice, right? The marketing of a company is the voice of the company. It's, if you don't tell people what you have to sell, you'll never get it in front of somebody who needs your product. Again, I always make the joke, we're not selling ketchup popsicles. You know what I mean?
mhm,
We're selling valuable services and help for a lot of people, and you're doing the same thing. If you don't have a voice, if you don't market that, then the people looking for you and your product will have a harder time finding it.
mhm.
And I'm sure I'm getting a big eye roll from a well-seasoned business professionals, but it's something that I've come to find that marketing is vital. It's to a healthy business and a healthy client relationship. I
Mhm.
have, we haven't talked about it in a while, and I took a little bit of time off from flying. I'm not really doing a lot of flying through the winters anymore because, quite frankly, doing ground ops in below freezing weather on the ramp of an airport is just not fun.
Mhm.
Um, so I've been taking some time off. I'm getting back into it, but since over the winter, the place where I like to fly, they took the plane that I like to fly off the line, and I texted the owner and I said, "Hey, where's the plane and that I like to fly?" And he's like, "Oh, we sold it, but we're trying to get it back on the line as a lease back." And I said, "Okay, so the airport has an app where you can see the planes. It's a scheduling app where you can see the plane's availability and you can kind of book the plane yourself through the app, which is nice. So I've been checking the app a couple times a week just to see if this plane came back on the line. And last night it came back on the line. And so I texted the owner. I said, "Hey, is the plane back on the line?" And he said, "Yes." And like, what do you think the first thought that came to my mind was in context to marketing?
Yeah, like why didn't you let everybody know it's back?
You should have sent an email campaign
Mhm,
out to your customer base and said, "Hey, the plane's back on the line." I mean,
mhm,
believe me, they want this thing rented. They want it used because it pays the bills. Um, and normally, I am the one who consistently gives everybody unsolicited advice,
mm,
but for whatever reason, I just decided not to say anything. But anyways, my point is, I'm kind of I come from a background of treading very lightly when it comes to advertising and kind of marketing and promoting the business. Um, but I'm kind of like I'm going the other way, and this is what I tend to do. Once I realize the error of my ways, I tend to just go the other way. So the marketing thing, I'm all in on it. And yes, what was it yesterday morning? I texted you. It's official. Or the first message I messaged you yesterday was, it's official. And you go, what? And I said, I'm a spammer. I have a deep and robust client list and prospects list. Prospects are former clients and or almost clients. And I have a pretty deep leads list of people that I've, have come to know or become aware of, or somehow had some soft interaction with. And, so now I'm starting a robust marketing function, email marketing function, and other channels too. But rant over.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I mean, the idea of getting content out there, for like the example of the plane, and that's a guy who could just flip open his phone and record a YouTube short or even a TikTok and just send it out. I mean, sometimes learning what the best method to get information out is something I think that everybody's learning too. Is it sending out a quick email? Is it hopping on and recording a quick video and sharing that across platforms? So
well, my experience with you and what we're learning from each other and what we're doing is multi-channel marketing is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they could have sent a postcard in the mail, but that's probably not the most efficient channel to use. But an email campaign, I mean, honestly, I struggle doing my short videos and my TikToks and my Instagram reels and things because it's just basically me in my office, blathering about something. Some businesses really lend themselves well to some of these formats. Like you said, just a walk out to the ramp and done a 15 to 60 second video for an airplane rental service really lends itself well to that kind of multimedia. So
yeah, it really does. And I guess that kind of ties into with things that we posted in the group. One of the things we talked about a lot is YouTube. And this article that I shared was from Adweek, talking about YouTube marketing trends and shorts. And so what you're trying to do with any of this stuff is, obviously certain platforms are pushing different features. So Facebook had some updates where they're, if you noticed along the top, they're pushing their reels a little bit more. So everybody's sort of chasing TikTok right now, and YouTube's not obviously going to be left behind, owned by Google. So you have YouTube Shorts, and the airline, your airport that has that would have been the perfect opportunity. Like you said, you record a quick 30-second video, just walking around the plane, going out there. I mean, and then that's a TikTok, that's a reel, that's on Facebook, Instagram, and you put it on YouTube Shorts, and just drop it into your email you could drop it in an email without even putting any words behind it or something. So but anyway, this is one of the articles that we shared to our
that was a good
Facebook group.
article. I read that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So saying YouTube adults are spending an average of almost 42 minutes a day on the platform, which is pretty amazing. If you figure an 8-hour workday, they're spending almost 10% of that on YouTube. So so getting in front of them for 1 minute of their 43, that's pretty good. So if you're taking, and to record a 1 minute video pretty much takes 1 minute.
I'm hoping to get in front of the video, the camera even more. Check this out. Bring up a big shot of me for a sec.
Yeah. Trying to get you to.
It's I don't know. It's one of them.
Yeah, I was trying to get you as big as possible. But
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, there we go.
Look at this rig. Do you see what this is?
Look at that. He's got a tripod. He's got the.
This is a tripod with a cell phone, a iPad mount, and a camera mount. And the goal was, I'm going to set that over here, and I was going to run remember we were talking this last week about a teleprompter app. So I bought this plate to spread the to put the iPad and the phone next to each other, because the phone's going to be my camera and the iPad will be the teleprompter. And then I I looked at it and it's like the camera and the teleprompter are going to be two side by side, I think.
Right.
Yesterday I bought a I don't know if I can bring it up fast enough or not, but I ended up buying a teleprompter rig.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me grab mine too. Let's see if it's the same one.
You have one?
Yeah. Yeah. I told you I had this. So this is so this is the one I use.
Oh,
Put this
perfect.
up here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically
So
the same thing.
yeah, this is the glass, and you put your, you put your camera or phone kind of under the hood here. And these are universal tripod mounts at the bottom.
Yep.
And then up front, where there's this little tray, you can put your phone or any sort of tablet, and that reflects up on the back. So essentially, what you're doing here is you're doing a little
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
peekaboo thing. So your camera is back here, and you're looking right into the camera, but you're reflective over the top, and the cameras won't pick up any of that reflection, obviously. So
Do you
um,
like that tool? Have you used it before?
uh, I have, yeah, I've had for like it's good if you have something like a blog that you've done, or even if you've scripted a piece of content and you kind of quickly convert it to that format. Even if you get off it a little bit, you can go back on it. But a lot of people use them in different ways. Some use it as more of kind of an outline thing, so you could just kind of slowly scroll through an outline, and other people go verbatim. But hey, it
Yeah,
takes practice.
that's one of the problems. Like I like this show because it's unscripted, and we're
Mhm.
just talking about whatever the hell we want to talk about, which is really nice.
Right.
But with the scripted edited show, you gotta write, and it's writing and scripting and that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I didn't mean to hijack. Where are we? We were
No, I mean that's the whole
transitioning.
point. That's what we're doing here. But yeah, I mean there's a place for all forms of content, and you're going to, I think in this day and age, you're going to, which is really neat, you're going to attract clients who are attracted to the way you communicate, if that makes any sort of sense. So if you think of, 100 years ago, you ran the general store in town, you had to kind of sell to everybody in town, and you were just purely bound geographically. But if somebody calls me from Ohio and they're like, "Yeah, I watched your YouTube video on, this fund or whatever, and I had some questions," I know that person is probably going to like who I am or the way I do business, because they've already listened to me yap for 10 minutes about some dopey mutual fund or ETF. So that's pretty cool, and that we're going to find clients that are like us and probably going to get along pretty well, which is
That's a
amazing.
really interesting point, and that's something that I actually that thought is the exact impetus of why I started getting in front of the camera.
Hmm.
Because for the first 10-15 years of being in business, I had really robust and rich in-person relationships with my clients. And for the past 3 or 4 years or so, I've been relegated back to the back of the office, business administration. So my wonderful team has taken the relationships I've started and continued on with them. um, but I was afraid to get in front of the camera to do kind of this multimedia marketing and stuff. And it took me a couple of years to realize, wait a minute, there are people that do like my persona, my character, because I've proven that to this point, you know what I mean? So not
Hmm.
everybody's going to like everybody, but the good news is that the people who do like you, and that's to the marketing, the email marketing, for example. I was
Hmm.
thinking about this too. Like, you send out an email campaign to 2,500 contacts, and there's a fear that you're going to get unsubs and uh, re, you know reports of spam.
Hmm.
Um, And what I'm finding is, well, sure, like the first round of a new list, you'll get some percentage of unsubs, but then the second time you send that list, that hopefully will get smaller, and then that each subsequent campaign will get smaller and smaller. And then what you're really doing is you're curating a high concentration of captivated audience, and
Right.
that occurred to me yesterday, and that thought has really excited me,
Hmm.
because now it's like, wow, okay, what if I 2,500 that 100 or two unsubscribe, and then over maybe 6 months of some regular email campaign, you're down to maybe 1,500, 1,200 people who won't or haven't unsubscribed. I mean, now you have a high concentration of people who say they're effectively with their eyeballs are signaling to us, okay, Eric, you've got my attention, not buying from you right now, but you've got my attention. Yeah, we've got an IT resource or something. They're doing okay, but okay enough to, I'll continue to let you stream your information to me. Maybe there's a tipping point at which you become something that I'm willing to take a shot on.
Hmm. Yeah, and in my business, the two along the same lines is this is my business is a very old business. I think the average advisor, although the age has been dropping, I think it still is in that 58 to 60 range. So you've got businesses that are changing hands, and they may not, for lack of a better term, want their father's advisor. They may want sort of that next generation advisor. And it's historically a business and industry that's communicated terribly. Sometimes it's intentionally, right? The idea of talking over a client's head, so that they feel, golly jeepers, this guy used a bunch of big words that I didn't know. Hell, that makes me just throw up the idea of that. Or, the milk and cookies kind of, wow, I came into his office and it was his or her office and it was really impressive. And they gave me the coffee. It's great. It's like, yeah, well,
An
you paid
advisor
for
who
that.
uses an AOL email address or
Right.
has their secretary do all their emailing.
Right. Right. And you've had compliance things where, the bigger the company, the smaller the box. So their email, so sort of regular email from some of the bigger firms is about as stale and boring as it's content for the sake of content, right? And they can't flip open their laptop and record a video and send it out to all their clients. They
Right.
have to run it through 37 layers of compliance. So, at least in my industry, somebody could get my email for 6 months and be like, you know what? I've got this guy's email for 6 months with market updates, with, best practices, with little insights. And I haven't heard from the advisor that I'm paying from in 6 months. Why? So it kind of clicks with them and be like, I've got a no contact advisor who's charging me fees that I probably don't even have the ability to calculate or know what they are. And I'm getting more value from somebody who isn't even my advisor. So that's what I'm always thinking about in the back of my mind too.
And that I've been thinking about that for years, and that just again reinforces what I was saying too. Like I've been treading way too softly.
Mhm.
The one thing that I'm thinking is, what do you have any idea what kind of value? So we have a contact list of our client, which is our the account or company.
Mhm.
At the company, we've got the owner, manager, partners, decision makers, billing contact. But
Mhm.
we also then we do have a list of all of their employees, because those are the resources or the the
Mhm.
contacts that we support. And I've done well to divvy up my database so we know who the decision makers and the points of contact are versus just the employees. And so I'm not sending any marketing material or any information to the employees data set.
Mhm.
Can you imagine any content that would be appropriate for an end user in that context? And is your situation kind of similar?
Yes, it's similar. So I thought where you were going with this was not uh, what content would be valuable, but should you connect with them? Obviously, I would say yes, and what content would be available. But I think it's sort of those you've got a big push right now on cybersecurity. So I think it's a lot of that crossover stuff. And I think if you can cross over into their personal lives a little bit, so instead of sending out an email that says, hey Jane, when you're on ABC company computer, don't click links. It's, hey Jane, because EVERNET runs your IT company, we'd like to help you out with some stuff here on your iPhone. Here's a couple tips and trips.
Right, right. So we do
Tips and
have.
tricks to keep your iPhone. If you can cross that bridge to their personal side, um, it's obviously you work with businesses, and I kind of work with both. So for me, I'm trying to establish that relationship with the business, but also them on the personal side too. I think it would be neat too. So one of the things that I do is need to get better at, but so we track obviously all our interactions with our employees. So we may go, especially in the COVID environment, we may go months without talking to the business owner or the HR reps, but we're getting calls here and there from employees, and those are, obviously confidential and that kind of stuff. And they're not going to go in and talk to their boss and say, hey, I talked to that Brian guy last night. It was great. Thanks. Like, that's never going to happen. And I'm not one who's going to proactively reach out to the employer every time to say, hey, Jane called me last night at 6:30 to talk about their father-in-law's account because he's going into assisted living. But if you're providing annual reports or quarterly reports for your clients, and you can say, okay, here's what we did for you on the business side, but also here's the type of emails. Maybe you missed it, maybe you didn't even see it, but here's the value we're adding to your employees by helping them be more secure at work and at home. I think that would probably be interesting
So to
report
that
back.
vein, let me ask you this. So my email marketing software has us define topics. So we can create lists of contacts, and then you define kind of your topics, which is, if you've ever clicked the subscription preferences link on the bottom of a email campaign or something, it typically should show you a page of like all of the lists or content or subscriptions that you're subscribed to. Does your software define that context? Because what I'm thinking is, I could probably, we've defined security alerts as a topic. So when something, which is really a powerful tool now, the email marketing software allows us to communicate, right, to our contacts and things. And I've created a security alert topic that we could, that's one of the things that we could send to all of the employees, and that probably would not be inappropriate. For example, like if there was an imminent security threat, we could then send that to everybody, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be good if you had. I don't do kind of the segments at the high level. I guess when I create I'll create the email and the content first and say, okay, what type of groups would be good at this? So I guess I have not the email segmented, but the recipients segmented between business owners, HR, and then regular employees.
But is there a subscription page where like all of your contacts, if they clicked on it, would it show them all of the things that they're subscribed to?
No, I think it's just general kind of emails. But yeah, that might be something to add.
I kind of thought that was like a de facto feature of a email campaign system, and I could be completely wrong. I've looked at HubSpot and a couple others, but
yeah, that's a good question. I know I have obviously the unsubscribe link at the bottom. So
yeah, because you wouldn't want an unsub. Someone might be like, okay, well, keep me on security alerts, but I don't need. So our topics are security alerts, newsletter, product and services updates, which is what I'm kind of treating as like the sales list. If we're gonna send something on a new product or service, general post, and personalized email. So I do use the email campaign software to send personalized looking emails just en masse. You know what I mean?
yeah, those look good. Yeah, I saw the one that you had sent over to me that looked pretty good. You've done a good job of doing the newsletter style and the personal style. I did just click the unsubscribe button on my own email, and it just gives the option to unsubscribe or to stay subscribed. So,
and it doesn't define a list or anything.
No, and that's probably because I don't have any lists on the back end. So I'd have to go back and
Okay.
look at that and see if I have that type of. But that, yeah, I guess that is a good point. I'd have to write that down and see if that's
So maybe,
something I would use. But
did I just give you a tip?
Just either you're all in or all out.
Okay. All right. So we're at 42 minutes. I know that we're trying to target 45 minutes so that we can have we want to definitely be under an hour. Any news that you want to talk about specifically? I know we kind of touched there for a second. I dragged us back out into the general chat, but I'm just looking
was there anything you shared? This was kind of an interesting crossover, I guess, between finance and technology. So the Department of Labor had come out and said, not necessarily in favor of or not in favor of adding cryptocurrencies to a 401k, just just be very careful and kind of saying not yet, like let's let this play out a little bit more. And then Fidelity kind of going against the grain. Um, and this article, the headline is misleading because they're not the first retirement provider to do so, um, but it said, in the article that they kind of went against the Department of Labor's soft recommendation not to do so.
Mm,
So that was kind of interesting. And then the DOL actually came out shortly after this and didn't, trying to think of the right words here, but didn't bash Fidelity for doing it. Just kind of say, we were disappointed to see them go against our guidance, I think is the right word, guidance from the DOL. So I think with Fidelity, they had obviously worked on this for a long time before the guidance from Department of Labor came out.
right. Okay.
So that's sort of created a little, we like these sort of battles, especially in the 401k or investment world. We don't get too much excitement, but something like this kind of got a pretty good reaction. So it'll be interesting that Fidelity's not backing down or saying that they're not going to do this, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So I
I
thought that
mean,
was it.
I don't know. Are you what's your position on cryptocurrency? Are you still a wait and see kind of guy, or are you seeing the utility and value in real, or where are you on crypto?
I do. I still see the utility and value in it long term, but I think it's something that's probably best held outside of the 401k. So I
Oh,
think if
okay.
it's um,
Because of its volatility.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I like to keep the 401k as kind of your serious long-term money,
Okay.
and at most you would maybe put 10% of your allocation in crypto anyway. So at that point, if it's going to be such a small segment, do it on an outside account, do it in maybe an old IRA you have somewhere, or just open up kind of a regular brokerage account and do it somewhere. But
Let me ask you a question. Is holding cash a considered an investment vehicle?
it is, yeah. Most 401k plans will either have a money market type account, which are basically zero now, or a lot of times after fees negative, and then others will have what's called a stable value account, which will pay a set rate and maybe resets every quarter. Usually the rates are a little bit higher on those, so some of
Hmm.
those are paying between 1% and 2%. There's some really old contracts that are kind of locked in with 3% as a floor, who are looking pretty good right now. They might have put those contracts in place 20 years ago.
Nice.
So usually there's definitely some sort of holding account for uninvested cash or people who want to get completely out of the market, something that's um, not doesn't have any fluctuation in it. So there's usually a cash account or a
That that's what I
stable
thought.
value.
And the
Yeah.
reason why I ask is because in my mind, I feel like I look at Bitcoin now akin to cash or currency, and so not I don't all these kids who are getting rich or poor off of buying all this crypto. You know, we're running short on time and I don't want to go too long, but Warren Buffett just said that if you offered him all the Bitcoin in the world for $25, he wouldn't buy it. So
Mm,
the richest guy in the world doesn't see the value in Bitcoin. I was late to the party, and I do see the value in a decentralized currency that can't be controlled by a government or a people.
mhm,
Um, I do also see that it's a fiat currency. The value is because the market just assigns it a value, so to speak, just like cash money, the United States dollar.
mhm,
Um, so in that vein, like I think, well, how much cash do I hold in an investment context? And then I think of the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency, and I have been starting to acquire cryptocurrency, but not like as a primary investment vehicle because I wouldn't do that with cash either. Cash
mhm.
isn't, and stop me if I'm saying anything inappropriate, but cash isn't really a primary investment vehicle. You hedge with cash, maybe, right? Or is that right?
Yeah, especially right now. I mean, there's always a portion of your account that's probably not invested, or it's ultimately cash is just really a really short-term bond fund, right now you're not looking. Cash is where you get for return of your money, not return on your money. So it's that portion that's, in theory, never going to go down. Although with inflation at 7%, if you're in cash, you're losing 7% a year. You're losing
Right. Yeah.
buying power with
Yep.
that. So yeah,
It's
I
not
mean, look,
inherently a money-making venture, right? I mean, it's not like buying pieces of a company, which are filled with people exchanging their time for money, which is what I always tell people who know nothing about investing. I said,
mhm.
you buy one stock of a company filled with people trading their time for money. It's different than trying to, time is the thing that we all can't make more of. You know what I mean? So. Um, Anyways, I don't want to go down that rat hole, I guess. But anyways, interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, Bitcoin and crypto is somewhere between being a currency, being a collectible, and being an investment, right? I mean, when you buy a painting, the only value it has, I mean, obviously it has if you're hanging it somewhere in your house or whatever, it has that aspect to it. But the only value is if somebody is going to buy it from you later at a higher price.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have any productive value. If your heat went out and you had to burn it, that's the only value it really has, right? Is to
Right.
generate heat for a short period of time. So
Right. My name is Eric Buhrendorf, CEO of EVERNET Consulting, America's #1 IT consulting and support company. See me at evernetco.com, and my partner Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting, a Connecticut-based investment advisory firm. We work with business owners and families to help get their investments in order, consolidating them, getting them on the right track from projections, fees, and expenses, and getting them in line with their goals. So we will see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Hey everybody, Eric here, EVERNET Consulting, Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. Just wrapped up recording with this week's episode. Brian, say hey.
Hey, what's happening?
So there we are in the studio. Yeah, hope you enjoy this week's episode. Check us out, Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. It's also a podcast. Have a great week, everybody.